What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. I hope that all of you are having an amazing Thursday. So, I was scrolling, on the internets like I always do, and I came across Danae Jackson on the Dear Wifey podcast, right? So, this was my first time actually even hearing about the Dear Wifey podcast, and it's a brilliant podcast. You guys should go check it out. Um, but if you guys know anything about Danae's story, she is the soon to be ex wife of Derek Jacks, who was this self proclaimed relationship guru. And he would always talk about, you know, what things not to do, kind of pre Kevin Samuels, like a Kevin Samuels Jr. type, right? Because what we find out from her is that, he's been cheating on her multiple times with multiple different women for a very long time throughout the duration of their marriage. And Danae took her frustrations out and took that misdirected anger out on social media as opposed to her husband, right? But she's been doing the work, working on her healing process. So she goes on the Dear Wifey podcast to share her truth. And I found it really just, it was amazing. I mean, she was transparent, she was open, she was vulnerable. And it is kind of long. It's in two different parts. And I'll link those in the description box if you want to check them out for yourself. But yeah, I just thought that it was a great way and a great forum for her to, share her truth, because the previous times that, she shared her heart in her frustration, I guess I should say, with the internet and social media, uh, it wasn't good. And she was dragged through the internet streets. So let's go ahead and get started with how they met, right? So she opens up in the first part, and I'm just going to give you guys a quick synopsis. But she meets Derek 3 weeks after a really traumatic event happens in her life, and I'll let you, you know, um, find that out as she shares her own truth. I don't want to, share too much of the trauma in her life, but she is definitely open and honest about some things that's happened in her past. And so she meets Derek in college around the age of 19, but only 3 weeks after, like I said, a really horrible trauma happened. And it was really interesting to note that she says something to the effect of, that type of personality can almost sense when a woman has gone through an extreme trauma, right? Like I don't know if you've ever dealt with someone who maybe has the characteristics or traits of a narcissist or a manipulator, but they tend to go for those who they sense are wounded or have just been wounded, right? Almost like a predator prey type of situation. So they date and they're engaged for a while, and they get married in their late 20s, I believe around 28. They're the same age. And I mean, almost like immediately and throughout their engagement and their marriage, there have been just issues with infidelity, him cheating, him lying, him just coming up with all kind of stories that, I mean, shout out to the host because he was so respectful, but some of the things that, she conveyed that he would be telling her, he was so abusive and manipulative. I mean, there is no other way to describe it. See, I never followed Derek Jacks. I, of course, saw him on, my social media feed when he would be making videos in his car. Was typically always in his car. But I mean, even throughout their marriage, like, with his rise to fame through social media and his books and, his relationship stuff, he was a great provider to her and her children. However, he wasn't emotionally present. And while they were in a house, he would stay separately in a condo for quote unquote work, which She said she quit her job to support him. It was giving wait and exhale, Mary J. Blige. She was his lover and his secretary, tease. But on the flip side, I mean, she was trying to be a good wife, right? Like she's a Christian. She was trying to be a helpmeet to her husband. But unfortunately, he wasn't mature enough to handle that. And he really took advantage of her, not only, her nature, but also just the fact that, she was young and she was really trying to support him. So she, was telling just basically that she was trying to make herself more like the women that she busted him with. And she had really lost her sense of self. She said she became a shell of herself. She really lost her voice and her core identity as who she was, as a woman and as a person. And it was just really heartbreaking to hear the things that he would tell her, because a lot of it, if you weren't in a very wounded and broken place, you could see straight through it. I mean, like if they had a 9,000 square foot, home in Atlanta, that's plenty of room to, build a studio or conduct business, whatever he wanted to do. And typically, again, he was filming in his car. So the fact that he had a separate condo was extremely suspicious, to say the least, right? She goes into more depth in the details, but I mean, he went as far as, making a list of all the women that he had been with, and it was just really intricate, and I applaud her bravery. They do, in part two, address the video right here where she was this is where I was first introduced to her, with the helmet of salvation like in her bonnet. But she said that she was really going through postpartum depression. She had 2 kids with him already. She was pregnant right here with their third. But she said that was a scripture that she was really clinging to. And she said she had to do that for her own sanity and her peace of mind. And when you're going through, whether it's depression or any type of valley in your life, your faith, your support system, I mean, it's really difficult to make it through things without, spiritual guidance or help. And she was supposed to be getting that from her husband, but unfortunately, he was the source of much of her pain. And obviously right here in this video where she said that she was really conveying Psalm 109, where people were saying that, she was putting a curse on people and saying that their children should be fatherless and vagabonds. That's addressed in this video as well. But she doesn't back away from it. She says that, it wasn't supposed to be taken literally. However, I could tell right here, it was just, again, misdirected anger, because I think that a lot of that anger, frustration, explosive, those things. And maybe she was even mad at herself for staying in a situation with a man who was so financially, emotionally abusive and manipulative and didn't respect her, So, like, he made a post, right? Oh, this quote is, oh my gosh. When she says, I knew her body better than I knew my own, she said she would study the tapes of her husband with other women, and she would try to emulate that in order to evoke his love and compassion and affection. And that was heartbreaking. So you can tell just from this quote alone, like, how broken she was. But I do commend her because she is healing. And Derek Jacks, he's still trying to, I guess, rebrand. And he made this Mother's Day post that she said she didn't even see. It wasn't even for her. It was for his public. Again, like, he reminds me a lot of Martell Holt, that they are, trying to convey this image to the world that doesn't match up or align with their character. And so you guys can see it on Instagram, but I'm really proud of her because I feel like her sharing her truth, her sharing her healing journey, and they prayed at the end of the podcast, which is really awesome. And, she's gotten her master's in divinity. So you guys want to follow her and support her, that would be great. But I just, I'm glad that she shared her truth in her own words because I feel like a lot of it was coming from a place of despair and brokenness. Anyway, you guys drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. If you guys have seen the podcast, if not, like I said, I'll link it. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk to you later. Take care, Aces. Bye.